watching movies, making food, and playing games. And I'm not joking. He told me he loved me after a week of knowing each other. I was stunned. I just said it back because I felt awkward and didn't know what to do, but I didn't mean it. I know, that's bad, but anyways, he's gotten a lot more comfortable with me. He adores my dog, and that's good, but here lately, he's been making a lot of comments that actually scare me. I don't know if I'm overreacting. I kind of want to break up and not see him again. First joke was about R-wording me and killing me. He said he would put drugs in my drink and have his way with me after I pass out. Then he said something about strangling me to make me pass out if I didn't like the drugs. Said something about if I die, then he'd hide my body. Another joke he made. He grabbed my chest and said now he's SAing me. I told him to please no make jokes like that. But the very next day, he'll make another. He's made a few jokes that make me terrified, but that's some of the stuff he said. I ask him to not make jokes like that because they're scary. And each time he says he won't, but then he does it again. I even told him I have trauma from being R-worded as a teenager and SA'd as a very young person. I don't know. It's like he ignores me when he makes jokes like that, and I'm just scared. I haven't been having intimacy with him anymore because of that. I'm thinking about breaking up. Any advice for me? Edit. Right now, I'm overwhelmed and scared after reading some of the comments. I really didn't expect this much. I'm sorry. I know it's infuriating to read this and think, how can I be serious? I have just always been like this. Always doubted myself and feeling like I overreacted. Hard to trust myself or my intuition. My brain always downplays and minimizes things. He promised me they were just jokes, so I believed him. I didn't think it was that serious, but deep down, I knew it's wrong. But I promise I get it now and understand the severity, and I'm going to break up with him. I will do it safely, taking your advices, and I will update and reply more later. I need to clear my head for now and come up with a plan. Thank you. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, are you actually a serious, real person? Your supposed boyfriend is making jokes about R-wording and killing you, and you're seeking advice? Are your survival instincts so dulled that you need someone to tell you to leave a collection of walking red flags? God, leave this creepy guy and move on with your life. Please. This guy is a literal danger to your life. And the OP responds and says, my stomach dropped reading this. I'm serious. Unfortunately, I second guess myself and never trust myself or what I think a lot. I'll admit, I'm a bit naive because he promised they were just jokes. I'm gonna break up with him. Another user says, I'm going to speak to you as a trauma therapist who works with DV dynamics. This is not joking. This is early stage coercion and threat testing. He moved very fast, said I love you within a week, and then started making jokes about drugging you, R-wording you, killing you, and hiding your body. When you told him to stop, he did not stop. When he disclosed your past intimacy trauma, he escalated and kept going. That combination is extremely concerning. In this field, we look at patterns, not excuses. He is showing you several high-risk behaviors at once. Rapid attachment, pushing intimacy quickly, ignoring your boundaries, violence, and continuing behavior after you clearly said it scares you. That is not someone misreading humor. That is someone testing how much you can get away with. Your body is responding appropriately. You said you feel terrified and have stopped having intimacy with him. That is your nervous system recognizing danger. This will escalate if you continue seeing him. You are thinking about breaking up. You should, and you should not do it in person. End it over text or phone. Keep it simple. Do not explain, debate, or give him an opening to argue. Something like, this isn't working for me. I'm ending things. Please don't contact me again. Then block him. do not meet up to talk it out. Also, take basic safety steps. Make sure he does not have access to your home. Change anything he might have access to, and let a trusted friend or family member know what is going on. The fact that he continued making R-word and murder comments after you told him about your trauma is not a small detail. That is someone who is willing to override your fear for his own gratification. You are not overreacting. You are picking up on something very real. And the OP responds saying, "Thank you for this. I am going to follow your advice. This has also opened my eyes to a lot more too, and I take it as a lesson to trust myself more." Another user says, "Info. Does he have a key to your place? After you break up with him, can you stay at your parents' or a friend's for 2 weeks?" And the OP responds saying, "I did not even think about that. I did give him my spare key to get something of his out of my apartment while I was at work, and I didn't get it back yet. And yes, I can go stay with my mom for a bit. I'm working up to talking to her about this. I am scared to ask him for my key back now. How should I do this? Or not ask and just change my locks?" And then every single other comment is just people saying, "Red flag, please run. This is dangerous. This is not going anywhere good," which is obviously very true. But yeah, every single commenter says that. And luckily, the OP is seemingly listening, and the OP posts an update the next day. Let's get into it. "Hi, so I got a lot of great advice on my post and I followed it. I just want to say thank you to everyone who gave me advice and really wanted to help me out. There were a lot of comments coming in and I'm sorry I didn't reply to them all. I was overwhelmed with the situation, but here's how the breakup went. I told my mom everything, and she was horrified at the things my boyfriend said to me. I told her I wanted to break up with him and that I was scared, so she came over to help me out. She is friends with my landlord at my apartment complex, and he is very nice. So she told him everything. He changed my locks for me. My mom told him what I told him, and he was fuming, obviously hating my boyfriend's guts now. I had to wait for my boyfriend to get off work before I could call him. So I did that yesterday evening, and I just told him it wasn't working out. I was scared because we only had one explosive argument before over me going somewhere. It was a misunderstanding, but basically it was so bad I was scared he's gonna hit me, but he didn't. And so I was surprised because over the phone, after I said I wanted to break up, he was actually very calm and civil about it. I set a bag of his stuff outside and told him to come get it, and he said he was going to. I watched a few movies with my mom. She wanted to stay with me for a bit, but then said she went home and I went to bed. I was woken up a little after 5 this morning to my phone being blown up by him. Had a lot of missed calls and texts and voicemails saying dumb stuff like I'll never find someone who treats me as good as he did, that I'm a slut, blah, 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 blah. And I texted back and said to stop texting me. Then he sent a text message saying that he's here in my parking lot and he wants to talk to me to fix this. That's terrifying. I looked out the window and saw his truck was out there. I ignored him and turned my phone off and went back to sleep. Woke up around 6:45 again to my dog barking because he was knocking on my door. I didn't answer it. I just texted my landlord and asked to tell him to go away from me because my landlord usually comes in around this time. Then my landlord comes in at like 7 and my ex was still here, so we called the cops to have him trespassed. Cops didn't arrest him, but they told him they will if he comes back since my landlord doesn't want him on the property ever again. I blocked him and that's it for now, but I am still going to be careful and always keep my doors locked. It honestly wasn't as crazy as I thought it would be because that one argument we had a while ago, he was scary, angry, and he does have anger issues. I just hope this is the last of it, but for now, the problem seems taken care of. Now I'm going to focus on myself, no more inviting hookups to my house because I realized how stupid that was. It was my first time, and of course, I got a guy like this. I'm also going to get myself into therapy because, like some of you said, I need to learn to trust myself better and take care of myself for unresolved trauma. But I just wanted to let you guys know I'm okay since some of you wanted an update and thank you so much for your help. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, I would recommend to not walk to and from your car alone, at least for a few weeks, whether at home or work. Same with putting out the trash. I'm really sorry you have to go through this. I really hope he'll go away, but I'm legitimately worried for your safety. And then the OP replies and says, I really hope he goes away too. My landlord is here a lot during the weekdays. He said he's gonna watch out for me. And don't worry, I will watch out for myself too. If it does get bad, I can go stay with my mom and she'll have my back. Thank you so much. And then another commenter says he waited until the wee hours of the morning to blow up so that he could lull you into a false sense of security and then enjoy ripping away your sense of relief and safety while also depriving you of sleep. The fact that he showed up is psychotic. You are in physical danger. Tell everyone you know that you are concerned for your safety and have a stalker. Work/school, friends, circulate his photo. Make sure people know not to share your schedule or location. Don't post on social media. Up your privacy settings and prune your friends/follows lists. I'm glad you told your mom and landlord. That was smart. Ask the police who responded to your landlord for a police report to be made and to give you a copy. Go to the police and demand they create a report every time he does something. You'll need the documentation for a restraining order application. And that is the last update the OP has given us on the situation, but I really hope that the OP remains safe because, yeah, that guy is a complete psycho, threatening to drug the OP, or if she doesn't take the drugs, he'll choke her out and make her unconscious and then R-word her and kill her. I mean, complete psycho. And that guy needs to be locked up. I mean, you can't have someone like that out on the streets. That's terrifying. And the fact that he showed up at her house at 5 a.m, who knows? Who knows what would have happened if she went out there? He could have kidnapped her or murdered her or hurt her. Who knows? And the fact that he showed up at her door as well, that's terrifying. But hopefully the OP's mom and landlord will try to keep her safe. And I really hope that the guy just goes away, hopefully, and doesn't do this to another poor girl, because that could definitely happen. And people like that don't stop. So hopefully he gets locked up or something, because, yeah, that guy is an absolute psycho. Starting something new isn't just hard, it's terrifying. So much work goes into this thing that you're not entirely sure will work out. And it can be hard to make that leap of faith. Trust me, I know. When I first started this show, I wasn't even sure what I was doing. What if no one listens? What if I make a fool of myself? What if people don't like it? Now I know that I was right in believing in myself and launching my show, despite all the fear and hesitations. It also helps when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Gymshark and Chubbies to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. Tackle all those important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. Everything is in one place, making your life easier and your business operations smoother. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/snook. Go to shopify.com/snook. That's shopify.com/snook. I called CPS on my sister. Burner account. I feel so stressed and guilty. Guilty for calling, but also guilty for waiting so long to call. I also called animal control, and they will be at our door in a few hours. I'm in college and the new semester just started, and no way am I going to be able to focus in class today. My siblings are severely neglected. They don't attend school, and one has an IEP for a diagnosed developmental delay and has long hair matted down to the scalp. Their house is a house of horrors, just filled with garbage and urine and feces from the animals that they don't take care of. They all sleep in one bedroom because the house is filled to the brim with trash. I've tried cleaning, I've tried hiring people, I've tried begging. Nothing has worked. I've spent thousands of dollars in trying to get this house cleaned up and nothing gets through to her. My sister needs psychiatric help and she won't get it. The woman I knew 5+ years ago would have never treated living, breathing creatures like this. I don't even know who she is anymore. She's such a liar that I have no idea what's the truth when she's talking to me. The school is on the verge of taking her to court for educational neglect. She keeps them out until dawn, door dashing, and then they sleep until 4 p.m. and do it all over again. The kids don't have friends or social lives. They barely know how to act around people. I'm so disgusted and sad. My sister was my best friend, but I can barely look at her without feeling that I'm going to be sick. Our parents have washed their hands of this and don't want to be involved anymore. They've tried everything I have, and I've given her so much money because she refuses to get a job. I don't want them to be mad at me for calling, but I didn't see them doing it. I have 2 kids of my own to take care of, and taking care of my siblings would completely disrupt the household, but if they get removed from their care, I'd rather them came to me while she gets help. Our grandmother just died, and now I feel even more guilty for calling because she was close to her and her mental health is already in the toilet. I feel so lost and alone in this. ETA. Her children's father, biological father of only 1 child but raised the other children, died unexpectedly in 2020. He did everything for her. Cooked, cleaned, took care of the kids' school, parenting, and hygiene, and took care of the kids in their home daycare. They weren't really together by the end of his life as he was already an alcoholic, and he was removed from the household legally after he started being investigated for illegal content involving minors. Her life is a mess, but losing the stability that he gave her absolutely rocked her. Things crumbled when he was removed from the home, and the responsibility was shifted to her. Then, when he died, it made it a lot worse as she still loved him. And now let's get into some of the top comments on this post. Someone says, "You absolutely did the right thing. It's a tough thing to do, but those children are suffering, and so are the animals." And the OP responds and says, "The animals don't even see daylight. They are caged and kept in a bathroom. 2 of her dogs have died mysteriously and have just been left to rot. She won't let me in to see their current condition, but her friend tells me one has a huge mass and is very sick and needs to be put down." And then a commenter asks of the age of the kids and the stressor to make her sister unwell, and the OP responds and says, "Her children are 9 and 13. Her children's father died a year and a half ago, and while she was unwell before then, his death really rattled the entire family. He did the cooking, cleaning, and made sure the kids went to school for 10 years. When she started having to do it herself, everything was just chaos. So while I believed it's not the entire reason, it is at least a huge piece of it. I just want her to get treatment." Another commenter says, "He did all the housework? What did she do?" And the OP responds and says, "Basically nothing, if I'm honest. They had an in-home daycare, and he did all of the work with that too." Another commenter says, "The only concern is you didn't do this sooner. Those children are being severely neglected." And the OP responds and says, "Things didn't come to a head until about a year ago. I have spent thousands of dollars cleaning and hiring people to help her. I thought I could fix her. I wish I would have called sooner, but it took a lot of detective work and money spent on my part to get to this point." Another person says, "How would sister find out you called?" And the OP responded and said, "I'm thinking she will have a pretty good guess based on the information. Not many people know what I know. She is a compulsive liar and manipulator." Another person says, "Taking the kids," and the OP responds and says, "Thank you so much. I absolutely would not let them go to the system. I'm ready for them to come to me, but with how mad she is right now, I'm not sure if she can't tell them she doesn't want them with me." Another person says, "As a child psychologist who specializes in therapeutic treatment with SAID minors, The casual mention of illegal content involving minors on brother-in-law and them running a home daycare are horrifying. Please tell me that your sister's children have been evaluated for SA. And the OP responds and says, yes, they were as far as I know. I think that's partially why the school has let this go on for so long. They were evaluated after everything. And then another user says, aren't you in college though? I thought you said that, so if you are, how will that work out so you have help? And the OP responds and says, my partner is a stay-at-home dad, which is immensely helpful. We'd have to utilize my parents and maybe after-school programs. It will definitely be tough. And then the OP posts an update a day later. Let's get into it. Update. Since people have been asking to be brought along for the ride, I've heard absolutely nothing about animal control from my sister or from the animal control officer that I spoke to. He was going to stop in Monday morning, and it's now Wednesday afternoon. I'm not sure if maybe he did stop in and nobody told me, but nothing really to update there. I've also not heard anything about DCF or CPS. My sister's best friend has been keeping me updated on what's happening. She has also been trying to clean up her house and has been driving 2 hours to bring my siblings to school so that my sister doesn't need to. I do not agree with this, though I am glad that they are going to school. I told her friend that she needs to not bail her out because if she can't do those things without her, then we're not really helping her. I've been right where she is. She is basically me 6 months ago. Her best friend is not only driving 2 hours both ways to help my sister, but she has taken time off to work and clean her house. I don't think she can get very far on her own. But my niece somewhat has a bedroom floor now. She's also been sending me things to post on the marketplace to sell, including a rabbit enclosure that I had no idea she had. That one mysteriously died as well, I'm told. The kids have gone to school the last 3 days, late, because of my sister's friend. I fear she is just making the problem worse by doing it for her, but at the same time, the kids need to go. It's such a hard place to be. She told me that my sister is still sleeping, and it is currently 2 p.m. because she was door dashing all night. I don't know how she plans to keep this up. Thanks everyone for the kind words and advice. It's been so nice and encouraging to read through. You have no idea how much it helps. And then the OP posts an update 2 days later. Let's get into it. My sister is very upset with me because I told our mother that her children aren't going to school even after the meeting she had with the school, telling her she has until the 19th to clean up her act or they're taking her to court for educational neglect. My mother wasn't happy with her and called her and told her off. To which my sister told her to lose her number. She is still not speaking to me, but she will get over it. She probably won't get over the CPS thing though. I haven't heard anything from them or from animal control, and she hasn't said anything about it. So it's still a waiting game. The school made a plan with her to have the kids at school at 7:15 because she told them that the problem is that the kids don't want to go and be watched when they walk in, because she is constantly late bringing them to school and they're walking in at midday. And every day this week, they have been at least an hour and a half late despite her friend's best efforts. Her best friend has been keeping me updated on things, and she's been driving 2 hours each way in order to bring the kids to school. And when she stayed the night, she slept in the garage because the smell of urine and feces was so intoxicating in the house. Her best friend went back home last night to get some rest before she starts work again tomorrow. She took a week off of work for my sister. It's currently 9:30 a.m. and I haven't seen her location move from her house, and so I know that her kids are probably not going to school today. She told me getting up wasn't the problem, but her best friend told me she's been staying up all night door dashing and sleeping until 2 to 3 p.m. while she brings them to school. What is her plan now that her best friend went back to her own life? Her best friend is where I was a year ago. She thinks she can fix her. She bought the kids new clothes for school because none of them fit, and has attempted to clean her house. She spent 12 hours cleaning and has hardly made a dent. She found 2 huge dead rats in common areas that the dogs have been peeing on, probably to mask the smell. I am so fucking disgusted. She told me her kids are not going anywhere and to stop rearranging my house for them, but she is not doing anything to make any changes for her kids. I want the kids here so badly. ETA. I've just called CPS again. I gave them all of the new information that I have from her best friend, as well as sent them pictures of the kid's bedroom. There is a pellet gun on the floor in one of the pictures, and I'm sure they won't take kindly to that. I also told them about the moldy, unusable fridge, broken oven, caked urine and feces all over everything, and the huge dead rats that were found. I hope they will get in there quickly. And then the OP makes an update the same day, and the update reads as follows. I called and spoke to the school. She did not get them to school and ignored all of their calls and texts and emails. She didn't even bother to tell anybody that they weren't going. This is against their agreement and doesn't bode well for her. The front desk lady seemed frustrated as well and seemed very well informed of the situation. They've really given her every opportunity to get them to school. She is still giving me the cold shoulder. I texted her and asked if she needed me to bring the kids to school tomorrow and that I'd give them breakfast. Nothing. The principal is supposed to give me a call back at some point, and they will probably start doing welfare checks with the police when they don't show up. I am one of the kids' emergency contacts, and so they were more than happy to talk to me and seemed on the same page. I asked earlier this afternoon about doing one today, and it seemed like they might since I requested it. I've yet to hear anything, so I'm not sure if they did or not. I'm going to call and do the same thing tomorrow on my lunch break at school. I won't give up. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone asks about the sister's reaction, and the OP replies and says, she is definitely going to hate me. I don't care anymore. I care more about the kids being able to heal. Another commenter says, just make sure you're also there for the kids after you got them out. They could be easy victims of bullying at the school. Teach them how to stand up for themselves. And the OP responds and says, I live 30 minutes away from them in another school district. I'm hoping I could get them into another school to start fresh. I'd be able to get them nice clothes and demat my niece's hair. At this point, I don't think this school is a good option anymore, precisely for that reason. And then another commenter asks more on the father of the kiddos, and the OP replies and says, I have another post if you go to my profile and I talk about it. The man who raised my siblings was removed from the home 2 years ago for illegal content involving minor allegations, which she says he was cleared of, but I don't know. To which he then promptly dropped dead in the street. Literally. The biological father of the other children hasn't seen him in 11 to 12 years and doesn't care to. Someone else says, bring the kids over / open invite. And the OP responds and says, they have an open invite, but unfortunately, she doesn't make it easy for them to leave their house. They have such crippling anxiety. I'd love for them to come over. I'm going to keep pushing it. And then the OP answers a few questions the next day. Someone says, so hold on. Why hasn't CPS realized these kids aren't being taken care of? Good Lord. And the OP responds and says, my sister is really good at dancing around the truth. She hasn't allowed anybody in the house. At this point, they will need a warrant. Another commenter says, did CPS ever visit after the first call? How were the living conditions then? Also, how did she know you called? And the OP responds and says, no, they didn't. She's been on their list for a good year and they've never gone on the house. She fostered a baby for a while, a whole other story, but the baby is no longer there. And she has had every excuse in the book why they couldn't go inside, and they just let her. And then someone else asks, any updates? And the OP replies and says, her friend is now unsending all of her Facebook messages. I'm guessing something happened. And then the OP makes an update post 4 days later. Let's get into it. The update is titled, "I called CPS on my sister. Update, they finally got involved." And the update reads as follows. I'm not sure if I should keep making new posts or add on the ones I've already made. Someone let me know, lol. I don't know how this works. I called and talked to the school for the second day in a row. She did not get them to school yesterday or today and slept through all phone calls from them. I watched her location and she got home at around 6:30 a.m. and it hasn't moved from there. I'm going to start calling my sister's best friend, Janice. Janice called my sister from 7 to 9 this morning until one of my siblings answered the phone. They said they've been trying to wake her up for an hour and she wouldn't get me to bring them to school. Janice says they brought the phone to my sister and Janice told her to get her ass up. My sister lied and told her she brought the kids to school yesterday and she'd do it today. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Janice is upset that she's been lying to her, but I think she's always lied to her. She's just realizing it now. Well, fast forward a few hours, I start getting a notification for every message that is being deleted by Janice incriminating my sister. Dozens of messages, including pictures. Luckily, I had most of everything saved already at that point. I asked what she was doing, and she ignored me for a bit, and then I get a call from her. She's crying and upset and says, "What did you do?" I played completely dumb. Apparently, my sister called her ripping mad, screaming, saying that CPS got involved and hung up on her. She thinks Janice is the one who called. I do feel pretty bad about that. I have no idea if they showed up or if they called, but it didn't sound good. She has an inspection coming up, but we are unsure of when. I wish I knew what went down. All I know is that they mentioned the things Janice has told only me, so it'll come back to me eventually. It doesn't sound like she let that on to my sister. If somebody showed up to her house, I'm sure she refused to let them in, which is an obvious red flag. Her porch looks terrible, and there's trash and feces all over outside. So I'm sure that was another rock in her stack. We have our grandmother's funeral tomorrow morning, and if she gets her ass out of bed at 8:30 tomorrow morning, doubtful, it's going to be one awkward family reunion. Janice is also going. I'm shitting bricks. ETA, I just messaged her other close friend who also happens to be a social worker. She's helping me get in touch with their social worker. No, the friend hasn't seen the house in a good year or two. And then the OP makes an update post on the same post the next day, and it reads as follows. She did not make it to the funeral. Janice drove 2 hours to drag her out of the house, but she refused to go. Now Janice is cleaning up her house while my sister does absolutely nothing. I told her to just give up, but she thinks she's doing what's best. The DCF inspection is bright and early Monday morning. Janice is doing what she can do to hide the evidence. They're both more worried about figuring out who called than the kids' well-being. I am beyond disgusted. Janice thinks she's being a good ride or die friend, but I do not see it that way. I wish I could never talk to either of them again, but my siblings don't deserve to be isolated. And also, I've been saying siblings this entire time, but the OP says and siblings, and I think that means niece siblings or something like that. I don't know. Let's continue. Thanks for listening to my woes. And then the OP makes an update post the next day, and it reads as follows. My sister has her inspection tomorrow morning. I don't know what time, as she won't tell us. She's done nothing to help this situation. My guess is she will just not let them in, and they will have to get a warrant. If anyone has any insight on how that goes, please let me know. I also sent DCF a long email explaining everything about Janice and have offered my home and time to them should they need me. I'll make a more in-depth update after I figure out what's happening tomorrow. I'm hoping the social worker gives me a call and updates me. And now let's get into some of the top comments. A commenter asks about the funeral, and the OP replies and says, last thing my grandmother said to me was to stop being a bitch to my sister too. Crying emoji. Someone else says, Janice being complicit, and the OP responds and says, I've said this to her a million times too in the last 3 days. It is not my siblings' responsibility to carry their mother's mental health on their back. Their job is to go to school and be kids, neither of which they are doing. Another commenter says, it is very good you got COS involved because my guess is if the school kept pushing, she'd just say she's homeschooling them, and so the school would be powerless. When done right, homeschooling is great, but too many times it isn't done at all. Many teens don't even know the calendar or basic reading and math skills. And the OP responds and says, you hit the nail on the head. I am terrified that she is going to tell them that she's homeschooling. That would be the end all be all. Another commenter says, can you just go and take the children? I know probably not, but I wish it was that easy. Sending you strength, X. And then the OP responds and says, she has a gun and she doesn't know how to use it. Another commenter says, if Janice truly cared about those kids, stating that their well-being, if on Janice, now should give at least a little nudge in the right direction. At least we can conclude that Janice doesn't have a mandatory reporting kind of job, because not reporting these things would lose Janice their job if found out. And the OP responds and says, no, but she has done social work in the past. Her loyalty is keeping her complicit. And then the OP makes an update post 9 days later, and it reads as follows. I don't know where to even begin. It feels like so much has happened, yet nothing at all. My sister knows somebody called and is blaming Janice and isn't speaking to her. I feel slightly awful because now my sister is speaking to me again and talking shit about Janice. I've been redirecting her as best as I can. The only reason she's even talking to me is because she wants to borrow my car. I wouldn't see it again. So I've been just saying it's at the shop, which isn't a lie, but I can pick it up at any time. I just haven't had the time with school and work. But I'm not telling her that. She only talks to us when she needs something like picking her up for vape juice and giving her money or a vehicle. I'm trying so hard for these kids, and I just feel like I'm getting nowhere besides poking the bear. For now, I'm saying, let's just make the best of it and get some help. But she's yet to make any effort. The only people that know I called is our dad, my partner, and my friend Caroline, who is actually a DCF worker. She's been so helpful through all of this and trying to help me help the kids in a way that won't cause her to lose her job, and all of you. My sister did not go to the funeral as expected, and she has a meeting on Monday with the school to discuss the kids' truancy again. This was her deadline to start going before they took her to court. I've been calling the school every day, and they've not gone once since Janice stopped bringing them day 3 of their deal. It's been a few weeks now. They know my phone number now and greet me by name, LOL. My sister managed to dodge her DCF worker 2 days in a row. Once she rescheduled, and second, the worker rescheduled. The house still looks horrendous. I dropped off Operation Happiness gifts and food, and I couldn't even get past the front door. It was a dark, dingy, dirty, stinky cave. She's still in denial and says, Janice called DCF on me over a moldy zucchini. She's dead to me. Actually, she's just plain delusional. There's no way she can actually believe that. Not when I've seen her house and smelled them all. She even shits on Janice for her cats and kittens and how at least there's not shit and piss at her house. There is, a lot. She just doesn't leave her bedroom. She's not put in a single gram of effort into cleaning the house, but she has spent lots of time trying to figure out who called on her, which is just disgusting. I've told her friend Caroline everything, and she's been trying to talk to her. But my sister has been lying through her teeth to her, which is unhelpful because I've told her absolutely everything. She said she may have to write her own report based off of the things I've told and things she's noticed. She gave my information along to my sister, a social worker, and said to expect a phone call soon as it's being made a priority. My sister is going to be pissed. I've been dropping hints to her about seeking treatment and easing her into the thoughts of her kids coming to my house. She's still against it and says they are not leaving her house under any circumstances. Unfortunately, She does not have that choice, but I need her to comply with our plan once they do get taken. I have no idea how she's going to react, and I'm terrified, especially terrified for children. She's not going to make this easy on them, and if she has to go to court, she will get a copy of the affidavit on it that will have my name and exact report that I made. I'm not thrilled for that, but for now, I'm just denying it until I can't anymore. Thanks again for listening to my woes. And then we don't get an update for a very, very long time. We get an update almost 3 years later. And let's get into it. 2 years ago, I posted that I called CPS on my sister. The post blew up, and I ended up deleting it because I was afraid my sister would see it with how popular it was getting. I still get messages to this account asking for updates. Everyone was very helpful to me blowing off steam about this, so I feel like I owe everyone an update. It's not great. We have to be careful about what we say and do so that we can still have access to the children. My sister is a textbook narcissist and has manipulated them so completely. Here's some background to jog our memories. Hoarder house. They needed to all share a bedroom because they didn't have access to the other rooms in the house. The house is a biohazard. Urine and feces everywhere. Dead dogs, yes plural, and rats in corners that they couldn't find. Moldy and decayed food everywhere and in the fridge. They had to order out for every meal. My mother and I spent thousands of dollars and hours hiring cleaning services, moving companies, and recruiting friends and family to help. My sister sat at the table vaping and scrolling her phone because it was too overwhelming for her. Her boyfriend had died 2 years before this, and that was her excuse for not getting her shit together for her kids. To this day, she says she didn't help because she wasn't ready. We begged her to get her inpatient treatment. She took my niece door dashing at all hours of the night with her drug-using friends, while my nephew stayed at home playing video games. Loaded pellet guns scattered throughout the house. Absences from school to the point of daily welfare checks. Principal showing up to bang on the door, and my sister being brought to court. Dogs and cats living in squalor, being made to shit and piss in the house. Sister was actively trying to get pregnant. Probably so much more. Yes, I was in contact with the school daily. Yes, I called the police. Yes, I called animal control. They said there was nothing they could do because she wouldn't open the door. Updates as of today. CPS did absolutely nothing. They said that the kids were not in immediate danger and that there was nothing that they could do. My sister's enabling friend, Janice, cleaned up the dead dogs and replaced the floors in those rooms before the CPS worker showed up. I told them this. They didn't care as long as it was done. Janice also cleaned the kitchen and one bedroom, making it almost livable so that the CPS worker could see they had a kitchen and a bedroom. Mind you, there are 5+ bedrooms in the house that they couldn't access with dead animals in it. My sister didn't allow the CPS worker in any other rooms, and the worker allowed that. My sister has a new boyfriend in the last 4 to 5 months. He is a drug user with a violent and criminal past who is in and out of jail. My sister's nearly 40 and her new boyfriend is 22. What they get out of the relationship, I am not sure. Neither of them has anything to give. Friend Janice has expressed concerns over the boyfriend's behavior with my 11-year-old niece, i.e., snuggling her alone in the car. My sister and her boyfriend and kids stayed with Janice for a few months after their house became flea infested and they could no longer stay there. August maybe? Janice eventually kicked them out after they destroyed her house, complained about her asking for help around the house, did not contribute financially, and she needed to keep buying clothes and hygiene products for them all. I have told her to cut her off, but she worries for the kids. During this time, my niece slept in the car because she was uncomfortable at Janice's, and so she slept in a running car every night. The neighbors called the police multiple times. We all assumed my sister lost the apartment, but she is adamant that she hasn't been kicked out yet, only threatened. My mom sent her landlord money and brought another dumpster that is currently sitting outside unused because she is too overwhelmed. My mother is done. They stayed at my mom's for a few days after Janice kicked them out, where my mom bought all of them, including the boyfriend, new clothes. My niece and nephew are now 11 and 16. They have not been in school in 2+ years. After the school got too judgy, her words, she pulled them to homeschool. Our state has no rules or regulations on homeschooling, so there was no reason for her to even fake documents. My nephew is 16 and doesn't even know how many days are in a month. They do not do any schooling, and they have said this to my face. My sister has told us she will get around to signing them up. My nephew is 300+ pounds with high cholesterol and hypertension. He is embarrassed about his weight and depressed. He sleeps and eats all day. My niece was recently hospitalized after she couldn't walk and was so deconditioned and ill that she couldn't function. She was found to have functional neurological disorder from extreme stress. I went to their care meetings at the hospital and to be severely malnourished and dehydrated. She told the doctors it just started, but they're not stupid. She was too sick. She sat in that car for too long that she atrophied. This was going on for much longer than any of us knew. My sister never brought her to the doctor for fear of being judged. She brings neither children to their primary care provider. You guessed it, they're too judgy. Eventually, she was worried my niece would die and brought her to the ER. She had to spend 3 weeks here. The hospital had many concerns but did not call. I had meetings with them and also told them all of this as well. I was really hoping that they would, and it would have more weight coming from them than from me. The boyfriend was staying in the hospital room with them, and the staff had a lot of concerns. He gave my niece pepper spray as a fidget toy, so he says is the reason, and it fell out when the nurse tried to help her to the bathroom. My parents are now divorced because of my sister. Our dad wants nothing to do with her, while my mom wanted to continue helping her because of the kids. I see both of their points of view. There is not a good answer. This has been a bombshell in all of our lives. Sister has burned all of her bridges and is door dashing all day for a hotel room. So that is where they are all staying, including the boyfriend. Either the car or a hotel room. The car that they keep mysteriously getting into accidents in and then lying about how it happened. My sister is still actively trying to get pregnant. She recently started on fertility medications and supplements. Where will they keep a baby? In the trunk? The children rarely respond to me anymore because she has them drinking the Kool-Aid. They know that their mom could get in a lot of trouble, and so they just don't talk. Neither of them have any friends, and they are so isolated from the outside world. I send them lunch money periodically, and my mom buys them clothes. Janice has blocked my sister on everything after she used and abused her too many times, so I don't have that avenue of knowing they are safe anymore. I called CPS again yesterday. I unloaded on that poor reporter. I then called the hospital and left a message with care management that I did, and that I encouraged them to call and add details of their own. They will never be members of society. My friends are sick of hearing about it. My parents don't want to talk about it and have washed their hands of it. If by some miracle they actually take the kids this time, the only place they could go is with me or with friend Janice, who is almost 2 hours away. If they went with Janice, I fear it would just allow more enabling behavior. My partner is a stay-at-home dad to our 2 small children, while I work 12-hour shifts 3 to 5 times a week and he is rightfully nervous about adding 2 traumatized children to the mix where he will be the primary caregiver. We would have to completely uproot our lives, which we are willing to do, but it is daunting. I am exhausted. I am angry. I am sad. I am so disgusted with myself and every other adult in their lives that have failed them. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, well, this update is depressing. Janice literally ruined the rescue mission, all to end up blocking her anyway. Whole situation is sad. I'm so sorry for everything. And then the OP responds and says, tell me about it. I've told her again and again that she needs to stop bailing her out. She will never figure it out because she has always has someone to throw her a line. It has gone too far. I love my friends, but you would not find me doing these things for them. Another commenter says, it's so upsetting that all of the adults seem more concerned with protecting their sister than the children. Unfortunately, this is a common thing. People forget that the children have no voices for themselves and desperately need people to prioritize them over anyone else's needs and feelings. Please keep trying for the kids. It sounds like you're the only one who still cares. Don't waste any more energy on your sister though. She is a grown adult who has had plenty of opportunities to either care for her children properly or give them up so someone else can. She will not change unless she is either forced to or realizes that she needs to. Nothing you can do or say will make her be any different. She sounds like she is selfishly deciding her wants and needs are more important than her children. These kids are being set up to fail at life where they are, and even when / if removed, are going to have a hard time adjusting to a normal life after being away from schooling and other people. See if there's anyone you can escalate this to. Sometimes your local politician or council person has contacts that can make things happen. If you do finally have them live with you, they will need as much help as you can access from counselors, tutors, medical assistants, etc. You'll need to find out what they are eligible for. The more contacts and helpers you can gather to help them, the more info you'll have to assist them and yourselves later. Good luck. And then the OP responds and says, I know a few people with connections to our Department of Children and Families, and I reached out to one of them today. It's just so exhausting. I'm so worried about these kids. Another user comments, this is all just so unbelievably sad. You must be feeling so helpless. And the OP responds saying, so helpless. I feel crazy because nobody is acting like the sky is falling like I am. And that is the last post we have ever received from the OP. And just such a sad Reddit thread. I mean, the OP is doing everything they can to get these kids the help they need. And for whatever reason, none of her efforts are coming to fruition and nothing is helping these kids out. I mean, like that last commenter said, these kids will be set up to fail in life if they don't get help right now. And the OP posted this 3 months ago, so I hope in the past 3 months the OP has been able to make some progress with her sister or with Child Protective Services, because these kids need help. And the mother really needs to, I don't even know what needs to happen to her, but she just needs to be away from her children and not the mother of them anymore. I mean, also, like, not to mention the OP's sister's boyfriend cuddling with the little kid in the back seat of the car. That's really weird. Also giving her pepper spray, which is just so insane. And who knows what he's doing behind closed doors that no one else has seen, but just such a terrifying and sad situation, and just insane, because it's crazy how the OP is doing all that they can, and just she must feel so helpless because she's calling CPS, calling friends, calling family, and nothing will work. Nothing will work. Even though obviously the kids are in a horrible situation, they're in a disgusting living condition. Even the OP said there was dead dogs in the house. Not even to mention the rats. Dead dogs. She couldn't take care of dogs well enough that they died. in the house. How incredibly sad is that? And then left to rot inside the house. Huge rats. I mean, you can't think of anything more disgusting. And these kids must be, contracting diseases from that horrible living conditions. I mean, like a rotting dog and rat, and not to mention the mold, all that shit. These kids must be insanely unhealthy, be riddled with diseases from just the horrific malnourishment and the everything else. I mean, it's just such a sad situation, and I just really hope that CPS was able to secure the children, and hopefully the OP can raise them and take them under her wing. Even though it will be hard, it'll be for the betterment of those kids. But wow, this was just one of the most insane Reddit threads I have ever read. Am I overreacting? I think my neighbors have been unalive in their home for 2 weeks, and I did not censor it as unalive. That's how the OP censored themselves, so I'm not being disrespectful. That's how the OP had it. But let's get into the post. I'll just start from the beginning. Going on 3 weeks ago, my husband and I heard what we suspected was a gunshot at around 9 p.m. on a Friday. We were concerned, but nothing came of it really. For the last 2 weeks, I have gradually paid more attention to the fact our neighbors have not seemed present, aside from their cars in the driveway. First thing was the obvious overgrown grass. We have an HOA, so this is really not something that just happens from time to time. Next, we noticed their cars have stayed parked in the driveway in the same backed in, staggered position. My husband and I come and go frequently, so we should have definitely seen them leave, arrive, or even change the positioning of their cars, similar to the past. Also, their assumed kitchen window is across from our bedroom window, and I've noticed the light of that room is always on. Morning, midday, night, it's always on. Lastly, they did not take out their trash this week. I know this doesn't have to be done every single trash day, but I definitely noted that they hadn't taken it to the street or even filled their outside can. I contacted our local police department, and they came out. All accessible windows and doors were locked and unable to see inside. The officer noted he could hear what was obviously a TV, but no one answered, and there was no obvious signs of people present. The officer told me to keep an eye out for any changes as well as no changes at all. And that was it. I've tried to find the neighbor on social media to see if maybe they are on holiday, but I have absolutely no luck even finding any kind of profile. So, could I be overreacting? Edit. First, thank you all for your feedback, tips, and additional things to look out for. To clarify a few things. Dead. Yes. I think my neighbors are dead. Fuck. I didn't realize so many people would be ill over seen unalive. I blame myself for being halfway into social media. Next, when I initially called the non-emergency line, I did mention the supposed gunshot. I also mentioned it again when I spoke to the officer who came out. I specifically asked for a wellness check when I called. As far as how the police handled it, not sure what I'm supposed to do about that. For clarification, we live in Texas. Gunshots and fireworks and random ass noises are not unheard of. When no other neighbors seemed to be concerned, I chalked it up to someone messing around. Aside from that, I posted on our Ring app group, and others were saying the possibility of fireworks was significant since they'd been happening in neighborhoods nearby. We did knock on the door different times throughout the day. No movement, no noises, no changes in lights. I did reach out to who I thought was our HOA. After hearing the story, she informed me we're actually under new management and gave me that number with urgency. Their office was closed for the day, so I plan on trying again today. I will update when there's actual developments. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "This is really interesting. Can you think of anything else that is out of character for them? Mail piling up, Amazon packages left out, garbage or flies buzzing anywhere?" And the OP replies and says, "Mailbox has mail and a small package inside when I look to confirm the spelling of their names. No trash out Both outside cans have remained empty. And a few Redditors tell the OP to keep trying to find answers regarding the neighbors, and the OP responds and says, "My husband told me about a coworker that did flip on a house that had a man dead in it for 3 years. He was retired and his bills were all on auto pay. His only family was out of state." So, I agree with you. Only way to get answers is to keep looking/asking for answers. And then some other commenters ask on the OP on what she knows about her neighbors and if they have families or friends around. And the OP responds saying, "Off of assumption, they are late 30s, early 40s. I know the lady works in healthcare. They don't either have social media or don't use their government name. Finding any family has been damn near impossible, as well as finding out if they're on holiday. Although they are quiet and keep to themselves, as do we, there are things that are easy to notice. Example, the trash not being in by the curb, recycle not put out, and the grass being overgrown. All things I know are very routine for their household." Another user says, "It's perfectly acceptable for you to go and knock on the door during normal hours. You shouldn't linger at the door for longer than 5 minutes. But it's not illegal for you to go to the door and knock for 4 minutes straight. If they show up at the door, apologize for being an asshole, and everything's good. If they don't answer after you knocking for 4 minutes straight, then you can tell the cops the next time that, hey, I went on Tuesday at 2 and there was no answer. And I went again on Wednesday at 6 p.m. and I knocked for 4 minutes straight and there was no answer. Don't knock so hard that you damage the door or your knuckles. Property damage will not help the situation. Anyway, if you do this, it gives you something to tell the cops and maybe gives them enough reason for them to make another pass. Remember, the ideal outcome here is that you're wrong. Hopefully, if you knock, you'll just get yelled at by the owner who just wanted to be left alone. That's a win if that happens. Don't be worried if you get your win." Another user says, "You're not overreacting. My elderly neighbor lived alone. I worked at a gym that I opened at 5 a.m. One day, his bathroom light was on when I went to sleep and still on at 4 a.m. I decided to just mind my own business. I got back home 8 hours later. In his driveway was an ambulance. The food delivery service found him fallen in his bathroom where he lay overnight. If only I would've. He didn't die. He didn't move back home either. I could have saved him hours of suffering, but I thought it was more neighborly to mind my own business." And then the OP posted an update 4 days later. And let's get into it. "I'm sorry to keep you all waiting. I feel like I was in a twilight zone, y'all. Turns out, my neighbors were not dead in their house next door. Basically, where I left off. I was going to contact the correct HOA for our community, and I did. The lady I spoke with was kind of shit for help until she realized she was able to see the owner's name and had access to his email. She promptly emailed him after I expressed all of my concerns. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I really had a moment where I thought maybe the landlord, owner of the house, had killed them. He came over to the house the day after I talked to the HOA and wasn't there long. He made sure to turn off the lights and TV. Another 2 days went by and nothing more seemed to change until all of a sudden, one of their cars in their driveway was gone. I was so confused. Eventually, the car returned, however. Still, no one would answer the door. And I'm thinking the landlord was putting on this facade because he knew someone was watching. Again, Twilight Zone here. Anyway, a few more days go by and an extra car is parked on the road. A woman and children are leaving as I'm arriving home. So I call out to her and ask her if she's spoken to the people who live there. She was the woman/neighbor's sister, and turns out the woman that occupies the home was in a quote horrible accident. She was reluctant to give any details, and honestly, I didn't want to pry, so all I asked was if her partner was okay. To which she responded, quote, "He will no longer be living here with her." I thought that to be a bit odd since his car is still there. Jail maybe? Anyways, the grass still hasn't been cut and the trash still hasn't been out. I'm not sure the state she is in, so I'm considering offering to help her out or at least take her a meal. But I'm also feeling insecure about the fact that I feel like an idiot. How do I tell her I'm glad you're not dead when she actually did almost die? And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, don't feel badly. Obviously, something did happen. You just didn't know the details. I find it odd that the police didn't seem to know what it was when they came and did the welfare check. You described it in your original post. I mean, if she had a horrible accident and he no longer lives there, it sounds like something the police might know about. And the OP responds and says, I thought this too. I live in a city with a huge police department, so maybe things got lost in translation, if that's even possible. Another commenter says, he shot her maybe, and she's in the hospital and he's in jail. If you know his name, Google your city or county inmate list and search his name. And then another user says, oh shit, something bad went down. And I totally agree. I think something horrific happened that the OP doesn't know about. And sadly, the OP hasn't updated the post since then, so we don't know if she ever got the details on what actually happened. But I mean, it's pretty easy to fill in the gaps. She heard the sound of a gunshot. No one's at home for a long time. Who knows what could have happened? I mean, it could be horrific. It could be exactly what it sounds like. The OP's neighbors, the lady that lives there could easily have been injured, and who knows what happened to the husband, in jail possibly. That's what people are speculating, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I think something definitely bad went down, but what was it? My husband is going to unalive me. And also, that's what the OP originally posted the title as. I'm not changing it, and I'm not doing the silly TikTok slang, so I'm being respectful because that's what the OP titled it as, but let's get into it. My husband and I have not been together long. Admittedly, it's only been 4 years. Other marriages make ours look like a baby marriage. My husband started hitting me around year 1, which blindsided me as he had always been a loving, caring man. I never saw this coming, even when it was staring me right in the face. He never stopped hitting me. It only evolved from hitting to beating. The cops have been called on multiple occasions, but they never do anything. I've started to see police officers as nothing more than a decorative object, just there to look good and make you feel safe, temporarily. Today, we had a particularly bad day. He didn't get the promotion he wanted, but nobody is. The economy, especially for the working class, is falling apart. I tried to say this, but he began getting agitated, so I shut up. Then he noticed that I was using Facebook, and I was talking to my brother, and he absolutely lost it. And I just don't understand why. I curled up in a ball and waited for him to be done with it. I don't know why I put up with this. After I thought he was done, I moved to get up, but he grabbed me and started hurting me. I honestly thought he was going to end me, but he must have gotten bored or something because he stopped. I've since locked myself in the bathroom, but I'm writing this on my laptop. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have no savings as my husband wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife. I don't have a license since mine expired. An oversight on my part, I know. But now he won't take me to get it renewed. I don't even have a tiny bit of change for bus fare to get to the DSS building, which is Department of Social Services. Not that they'd help me anyways. The last time I tried, they told me that I couldn't even claim homelessness because I had somewhere to go back to. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, if he strangles you, he is way more likely to murder you. In fact, around 700% more likely. I know that sounds insane, but it is a real searchable statistic. Please search for DV shelters in your area. Nothing he can do is worth your life. Another user says, is your brother nearby? Could he help you find a place to stay? Please call the police. You can have him charged with attempted murder for strangling you. Take pictures and send them to someone you trust. Don't leave the bathroom. Please have someone call for help if you are unable. Another user says, The reason he wanted you to be a stay-at-home wife is because he wanted you to be financially dependent on him and unable to leave. He doesn't want you to get your license renewed because it makes you even more dependent on him. Please call your brother and ask him to help you get out. Tell him everything that is going on. If he can't help you, call anyone else that you have in your life. If you have no one else, call a domestic violence shelter. Please don't just resign yourself to a lifetime of abuse. You can get out. And another user says, first, let people in your family know what is going on, like right now. And then the OP makes an update on the same post 2 days later. And the update reads as follows. First of all, I'd like to apologize for causing everyone to worry. I have not gotten out yet, but I am planning on it. My brother is going to pick me up while my husband is at work and take me to an old high school friend's house. She couldn't afford her rent on her own anyways, haha. I've already started looking for jobs in that area. It's going to be nice to work again. I've realized being a stay-at-home anything is not for me. I don't want to have to rely on anybody for my lifestyle, especially if someone could just rip it away at any time. Finally, thank you all for the comments and DMs to ensure that I am okay. I will answer all the DMs as there are only 15 of them. As for the comments, I probably won't comment on the comments, although I am thankful for them. And then the OP gives us another update 2 days later titled, so a lot of stuff happened yesterday. I'm glad my brother was able to get me, but I shouldn't have got him involved. He's 16 and just started driving. He's really good at it though. Most likely because our father spent a lot of time teaching him before he even turned 16, on private property of course. Anyways, my brother pulled up and began helping me pack my stuff. Basic necessities like clothes, hygiene products, and my laptop. But for some reason, my husband came home early. Really early. It was like 12:45 p.m. when he pulled in, but I have no idea why he came home so early. As you can probably guess, this situation didn't go very well. He started yelling at me and my brother. His yelling even got attention of the neighbors. Some of them came outside, but nobody did anything. They all just kind of stood there. Anyways, my husband kept screaming at me, calling me all kinds of horrible names. I'm not going to get into what those are, but they seriously pissed off my brother, who started screaming at him back. Things came to a head when my husband grabbed my brother. I'm not entirely sure what happened. I don't remember. But the next thing I do remember is I stood in front of my brother and my husband was on the ground with a bloody nose. The police showed shortly thereafter. I can only assume that one of the neighbors called the police. When they pulled up, my husband went apeshit. The police tried to de-escalate the situation, but my husband made the idiotic choice to lay hands on an officer. So long story short, my husband got arrested. The police talked to me, my brother, and the neighbors. I didn't get charged or anything. I was terrified I was going to be, but the police said that I was well within my right to punch him, but I should have prioritized de-escalation. Anyways, after everything was said and done, we left. I made it to my friend's house without much issue. I'm so happy to be away, and I'm ecstatic to get back into some of my old hobbies. I might take up playing the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Thank you all for following my story, and I'm so thankful to all of the advice, kind words, and everything you've given me. And that is the last update we've received from the OP, and I just really hope that the OP's husband gets charged and goes to jail for a very long time, because surprisingly, in a lot of these domestic violence Reddit threads we'll read through, or I've read through before, the husband who is perpetrating the domestic violence doesn't really get a lot of time for whatever reason most of the time, in max like a few years. So I just really hope that the OP's husband gets put away for a long time, because yeah, it's a ticking time bomb. It sounded like he was going to murder the OP. It really did. Terrifying. And I mean, the way he acted in front of the police, imagine how he acted in front of his wife, or in front of the OP when no one was watching. If he wasn't scared to act that way in front of neighbors or police, who knows how terrifying he was when it was just him and the OP. So I'm just super glad that the OP is out of that scenario, and hopefully she can remove him from her life entirely and be safe. And like I said, I hope the OP's abuser goes away for a very, very long time. Strange behavior from new downstairs neighbor. I'm not sure if this is the right subreddit, but I hope so. So a few weeks ago, the 8th, I moved into my newly purchased top floor flat in London. The day after, I got a knock on my front door. The woman at the door introduced herself, saying she had just moved into the building, and I said, "Oh, me too." That is fair enough. It's nice to introduce yourself to your neighbors. Now, obviously, I'm working from home due to the lockdown, so I am here most of the time. Randomly, throughout the day, I would hear what would sound like a thump on my door, but whenever I opened it, there was no one there. This happened a few times. One time I saw her shortly afterwards, and I asked if she had just knocked, and she said no. Then one day, she did knock whilst I was working. I opened the door, and we just had a conversation. She was talking lots of crap, and it was difficult to get rid of her, but it became obvious from the conversation that she is renting the flat below, and the landlord has illegally subdivided it. My question isn't to do with this. So she lives in a tiny flat, and she is currently off work because she works security at clubs. So I just thought, she must be bored and lonely and just needed someone to talk to. Again, absolutely, no problem. She mentioned the door of the flat not fitting properly, so having to slam it to close it, which I have since witnessed. So I decided that it must be the sound I keep hearing. Anyways, last weekend, I put up my HomeKit camera above my front door. Complete coincidence, I already had it, just hadn't got around to putting it up after getting permission from the freeholder. And it kept telling me about motion, and when I checked there was nothing. I realized I had it set up not to record when I was home, just to stream, so changed it. The camera is clearly visible. Then yesterday, when I was out, it alerted me to motion by my front door, and she was there having a conversation with me. I'm not 100% sure what she said, but people I've shown the clip to think, "Stefan, can I go now?" as he's not going to be coming in. Fuck knows. Anyway, when I got home, I knocked and I asked her if everything was okay and if she wanted anything. She said everything was fine. I asked if she ever hears me making noise, and she said no. She doesn't hear anything, but I said, just let me know. Yesterday afternoon at around 13:30 or 1:30, I was sitting on the sofa, headphones on, no sound in the flat, and I got a notification. I checked the camera, and it showed her coming up to my front door, slamming the palm of her hands hard against the door, turning around, and leaving. I then realized I'd been missing notifications, not quite sure how. All week about motion outside my door, and there were loads of clips of her doing something like this. Sometimes just coming up and touching the door and leaving, sometimes just coming up to the door, turning around and leaving. Bit weird, but not annoying. I assume maybe some form of OCD. But there were several recordings of her slamming on the door like at 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning, then at 2 a.m. this morning. Were it not for the weird conversation with no one and the actual banging on the door, I wouldn't be concerned and would just put it down to a harmless tick or something, as I said, maybe OCD. But the actual slamming on the door is disturbing, and now better explains all of the previous times I've heard it. I just wanted some advice on what to do. I am trying to catch her in the act, but that is hard as she immediately leaves. I had the camera just showing on my TV for like 2 hours today to try and see her coming. I don't really want to confront her without catching her in the act, since I already had previously asked about the knocking on the door and she said it wasn't her. I'm going to keep the recordings and email her landlord, who is annoyingly also the freeholder. Ask him not to do anything yet, but just raising it as a concern that he needs to be aware of. But as he had already illegally subdivided, I doubt he cares as long as he is getting money. She is clearly unwell. Just wondered if anyone had any other advice on what I should do. I thought maybe contact the police, but I suspect they would tell me just to keep a log for now. I asked a social worker friend who said the most unhelpful thing. That is the problem with technology. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't even know. Like, yeah, that is true, but that doesn't excuse banging on my door at 4 a.m. That is the dumbest. Sorry. The friend that OP has said that is the problem with technology. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't even know. That makes no sense. That is the worst advice I've ever heard in my life. Sorry, I had to go back because if my friend said that as advice, you wouldn't be my friend. I'd be like, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? That's the problem with technology. Anyways, let's continue. Yeah, that is true, but doesn't excuse banging on my door at 4 a.m. Can't remember if it woke me up, but next time I wake at night, I will check the camera because it is always literally one knock. So presumably it would wake me and I wouldn't be aware that someone was knocking. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, very odd and quite creepy. You are right that she is unwell. It seems like you are doing the right thing by keeping a log. I would invest in extra security for the apartment, possibly a strong lock, and make sure all entrances, including windows, large vents, etc., are secured. All bets are off with this woman since she either has a mental issue or perhaps a memory of the other person living there. This does not sound like just boredom. If it was, I believe she'd be more interested in having a conversation with you and developing a friendship. I would also arm myself with a non-violent form of protection if you have not already, pepper spray or something similar. It goes without saying, but I hope you have already planned to move somewhere else once your lease ends. I am from the US and don't know about leasing in London, but in my lease, it is stated that each resident is entitled to a reasonably peaceful and quiet home. So her banging on your door a few times per day and also at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. would be a violation of the lease here. You are doing the right thing. The best thing is to protect yourself. I would not suggest you talk to her about it because, as we both agreed, she has an issue, so logic and reason is not going to work with someone who needs medical attention for their brain. And it might piss her off or trigger something else in her, or at least inspire her to do whatever she is doing in a more covert way. If I were you, I would want her to feel comfortable to act out in a way that you can monitor so that you know if your apartment becomes physically unsafe. I hope this gave you a different insight. Let me know what happens. This is pretty interesting. As a final note, have you considered installing cameras inside your apartment as well, pointed at all possible entryways? Just a thought. Edit, I would also like to add, it might be a good idea to make her feel comfortable around you and develop a friendship so that you can monitor her while you are stuck there on your lease. You may have already created suspicion by questioning her about knocking on your door, so I wouldn't do that anymore. Instead, try to remember how she looked/acted while she was lying so you can find out things she lies about in the future and ask her questions that she will answer truthfully. Example, favorite food, so that you can know what her normal demeanor is versus her lying demeanor. I would really play it smart with this woman if you cannot leave. And then the OP replies and says, literally just moved in and my mortgage is 5-year fixed term, so it'll be a while. I think lease here is a bit different to lease in the US. It's a weird form of ownership. Most flats are leased because you don't own the building. Renting tends to be called tenancy. She said she had just moved in, so not sure about her remembering the previous owner, and I am pretty sure that is true, as I'm 99% sure that flat she is in was empty when I exchanged just before Christmas. But yeah, we'll definitely be keeping on her good side for now. Luckily, that is the only entrance. Well, unless you can climb outside walls. Layout is this, and the OP provides a picture of their layout and their floor plan. And basically the neighbor needs to go up the stairs and then just knock on the door. So it's not like she's walking by a hallway, if that makes sense. Because in my mind, I was imagining it as like a hallway and she lived a few doors down and would just come up. But it's really strange how she needs to come up the stairs, knock on the door, and then run back down the landing area and down the stairs. I find that very strange because obviously it's intentional. And the OP continues and says, so the landing shared stairway is the only way in. All of the windows are 2 stories up. Another commenter says, off the top of my head, I had a neighbor like that. She was unwell and her flat wasn't very good. So she got it into her head that if she got me to move, she'd get my bigger, better flat. Little did she know, I owned my flat, so maybe that. And the OP responds and says, yeah, her flat is definitely shit from what I have seen. And I also own, so yeah, that wouldn't happen. To be honest, I'm not sure how long she'll be there anyway, as the council has already issued an enforcement notice about that flat being illegally subdivided and the owner lost his appeal, so I presume at some point the owner will have to make it good. Another user says, it might help to tell her that the strange noises you asked her about have continued and that you're going to put up cameras to see if it's a mouse or something that blows in the wind, etc. Don't say it's to catch her, just to figure out what's making the sound. I'm not sure if that will help if she's mentally ill, but she seems well enough to hide her behaviors to some degree in front of people. So maybe if she knows that she's being monitored, she won't do it. You don't have to tell her you already have the footage. I don't think. I'm not sure what the laws are about them recording people, but that might be something to look into. I would definitely call the police and inform them that this is happening, just so they have a record. I'm not sure if you can or want to get a dog, but one would likely bark at the knocking and that might scare her off. Even dog sitting a friend's pet. If you're safely able to, it might help. Good luck with the situation. And the OP responds and says, interesting idea. Although she'd have to be completely blind to miss the camera, which is already there. I did look at the laws surrounding CCTV on your property, and it's a bit of a gray area. If you were pointing at her door or the stairway, it would be more tricky. And if someone had to pass it to go to their flat, it would be as well. But since I am on the top floor and the only flat on that floor, there is no reason to come up here other than to come to my flat. So from reading on gov.uk, it seemed that no one could have the reasonable expectation of privacy. There is, of course, all the stuff around what I do with the recording, which is why after I posted one in this thread earlier to show people the sort of thing I'm talking about, I immediately deleted it as I decided that probably was a breach of her privacy. Sadly, a dog isn't an option as much as I'd love a pet. And then another user says, this is very unusual behavior and I'd probably be more concerned than you are. I would possibly report the illegally divided unit anonymously if you can. God only knows what this woman is capable of. And the OP responds saying, already been reported before I moved in and there is a case ongoing. Have tried to chase the council to find out what that was, but they haven't reported. And then the OP gives us an update a few days later. And let's get into it. I thought I would just give a quick update in regards to my crazy neighbor. Thanks for the advice, everyone. So I've been keeping the recordings. On the next evening, I contacted the police saying I was concerned about her behavior, not that I was complaining about the nuisance. They advised me to contact Lewisham Environmental Health Office. As it was late, I didn't really think about it, but the next day I realized someone was just fobbing me off. What has it got to do with EHO? So I didn't bother. Over the next few days, it escalated, becoming more frequent, so I contacted them again, only to be told they have noted it down, but there is nothing they can do at this stage but to keep informing them. It continued to escalate that day, getting more violent. So I contacted them at 10 p.m. and they said they would report it to the Safer Neighbor team who would contact me. The next day, they turned up. Although there was some confusion because even though I have a SE26 postcode, which is Sydenham, I am actually in Forest Hill. Looked it up and the boundary literally runs down the middle of the road. So one side is Sydenham and the other is Forest Hill. I showed them the footage, including videos at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and they agreed that it is creepy and concerning. They asked if I wanted them to speak to her, but said it possibly wasn't a good idea until they could report it to the correct neighborhood team, as it may make things escalate further. I agreed. So they gave me the correct details for the Forest Hill team and asked me to email them the videos. Before I got around to it, I got a phone call from the team just confirming how to get to the flat. It is a bit of a PITA to find, but as I was out, I said they may not be able to get in as the front door is normally locked and I am the only one with a doorbell. We agreed that they would talk to her as if there was a concern for her rather than about her. They phoned me back in the afternoon and said they had spoken to her and she seemed normal, if maybe a bit slow. She denied knocking on the door, and they said they had seen footage, to which she said she was just knocking to chat, and they told her it was not appropriate at 4 in the morning. At this stage, I think they assumed I was probably someone just complaining about a noisy neighbor, and she maybe wasn't very bright and hadn't realized the problem with knocking at 4 in the morning. But they asked me to send them the videos, so I sent a couple of choice highlights, like the one above, and one of her racing up the stairs, doing it, and racing back down. I got back the reply, "Okay, yeah, those videos speak for themselves, don't they?" They concluded that, like I had, that she was unwell, so referred the case to social services. They advised that maybe she was sleepwalking and that I should maybe get a stair gate for now. I think I don't want to because I was worried that if she was sleepwalking, she may try and climb over and end up hurting herself, but I would keep it under advisement. Tuesday night, she kept me up most of the night. Then again, Wednesday night. I missed work yesterday due to the lack of sleep. At this point, I thought, fuck it. I really don't care if she hurts herself now. So I brought a stair gate. But I am not an arsehole, so did look for one wide enough to go on the landing so that if she fell, she wouldn't fall down the stairs. But unfortunately, the only one I could find was 4 to 6 weeks delivery, so settled for one on the top of the stairs. I also contacted the officer again to ask if there was any news, and he said once it had been referred, it was out of their hands. So he had no idea, but said I might want to report it again and consider a harassment report. I informed the freeholder that I was installing a gate at the advice of the police, and his response was simply, "Okay, thanks." Yesterday, I was out of the shop over the road and she came in. She left before me, and after I came out, she came running across the road saying she had locked herself out of her flat and could she wait in mine. Obviously, there was no chance, so I made up a lie about just doing some shopping, then going to a meeting, so I put my shopping away and went out for a walk. By the time I was back, someone had come back with the key, thankfully. I installed the stair gate last night when it arrived. She didn't knock overnight, but I'm 99% sure that is a pure coincidence, as the camera would have caught her coming up the stairs. Literally, as I said this to a colleague, she came up the stairs, climbed over, and banged on the door. It slowed her down enough for me to get to the door to confront her, but she just ignored me. A few minutes later, she came out and opened the gate. So I went out and put a bike log on it to see what happened. Half an hour later, the camera has her coming out. Checking to see if I was there, then realizing there is something on the gate, so examining it. Then when I came out, she legged it. That was enough evidence for the police to finally take it seriously. Sleepwalking people don't check to see if anyone is watching them or stop to examine locks, so they are sending someone out today, but said to phone back immediately if she becomes aggressive. She's been back to look at it a few times so far. Exhausting. And then the OP posted an update later that day saying, unfortunately, they haven't been able to send anyone today, as the officer I've been dealing with has to self-isolate, but said someone would be out tomorrow. But if she threatens me or anything, of course, call emergency services. And then the OP post the next day saying, update, nothing much to report on overnight. She came up at around just before 1 and just before 1:30 and did the usual thing, although not particularly aggressively. Didn't wake me, all been quiet since. I'll tell you one good thing about the last few days. It has helped me reset my sleep schedule, but has been messed up since the first lockdown. It has certainly been cathartic writing this all down in one place. Been chatting about it with friends and colleagues on WhatsApp, etc. for weeks, but having it all written down like this has made me realize just how ridiculous this has all been. And then the OP post the next day saying, so eventful afternoon. The police came, They knew most of it because they'd seen the videos, but I explained about last night. I also explained how she asked to wait in my flat the other day after locking herself out apparently with a dead phone, and how I went down with a battery so she could power her phone to phone her landlord, and it was magically working all of a sudden. And the officer was like, oh yeah, of course it was. So they went to speak to her, and when I let them out, I stupidly locked myself out going to put the lock back on the gate. I normally leave the door lock on the latch when I was letting someone out or going to check the mail, but obviously I've stopped doing that, but because I hadn't left my keys in the usual place, I forgot to pick them up. I've been planning to leave a spare key at the office and with a friend, but of course we've been in lockdown since I moved in. That has not happened. Because I was locked out, I heard the entire conversation with her. She of course denied it. They said she was harassing one of her neighbors, banging on the door aggressively at all times of day and night. She said she is the one being harassed by music, but she's spoken with David, the guy next door to her, and they've come to an arrangement. He is ill, so isn't there, and it has people looking after the flat coming in and out at odd times, but he would speak to them and make sure they are respectful. That would explain why I said it seemed like he kept odd hours, and why the one time I saw him, he was in a dressing gown at like midday on a Wednesday. She asked to see the so-called CCTV, but they said that they can't do that. So she apparently thinks it is the flat next door, which means she hasn't noticed the camera. So anyway, they said they are not sure they believe her, but that is she is clearly unwell, so they are contacting mental health services and will keep me informed. But to keep letting them know of any incidents, and they may have to take it down the harassment route. I'm also not sure I believe that she doesn't know what is going on either. Apart from all of the other stuff, when I was waiting outside for the locksmith, she opened her window and gave me the dirtiest look ever. When the locksmith came, he was asking what lock I wanted as a replacement, and I chose the stronger of the three. He said, I don't think you need that one here. So I explained why, and he was like, what the fuck? That has given me the goosebumps. And I understand how you managed to forget your key. You must be stressed out. He told me to claim on my building insurance and advised that I get a camera, so I pointed at it. He said there's no way she is getting through the door, so no need to worry about that. So yeah, a 560 euro bill was not what I was expecting today, but I guess at least I know I now have a good lock. And then the OP posts another update the next day on the Sunday and says obviously the visit from the police and the higher gate haven't worked. Not that I thought they would. That was a very gentle one. That is what they were all like when it started, which is why I first thought, okay, that's a bit odd but harmless. Maybe OCD, but obviously it escalated rapidly. And what the OP is referring to there is the knock on the door, and basically the OP's neighbor just knocked on the door very lightly, and he was just referring, saying, it's not super major, but obviously it's very weird. And then the OP posts another update saying, another update. So she did the above again shortly afterwards, and then was gone all night. I woke at 6:30, but looking at the camera, she was back to banging hard at 6:30, so I guess she woke me. She did the same at 9:30, and then at 11:30, this. And unfortunately, the link has since been removed, or the video the OP is referring to, but who knows what she did. And the OP says, really creepy. Some debate amongst the friends I have shared it with as to what she is saying. Either Steve unintelligible in you, or Steve unintelligible was it you? Sending that one onto the police, as that one is really creepy. My mom, who is originally from this part of London, as is the woman downstairs, says she can hear somebody's taken some ink. I said I couldn't, and she replied, that's cause you've got a posh Sussex accent. And then the OP posted an update later that night saying, of course it has started again tonight. So I wanted to see what would happen if there was a noise, so I whistled through the camera speaker and, well, watch her reaction. And unfortunately that link is also gone, but he says, I'm sure she knows what is going on. I think that's it. No more concern for her. It's time to speak to the police about filing charges like they suggested. And then the OP posts a major update the next day, which reads as follows. Major update. Sitting in bed at 8 a.m. thinking I really should get up, and she kicked the fucking door in and left. So much for not getting through that lock. Well, I suppose she didn't. She got through the frame. Police are, of course, on the way. I am sitting here bracing the door. She keeps coming back and knocking, saying my name, and at least once, I didn't do it. Fuck, fuck, fuck. She just tried to get in. Are you okay? The door downstairs was open. I've called the police. She's gone now. Police are a few minutes away. Steve, can I get you anything? Anything missing? Fucking hell. I keep asking people to lock that door, you know what I mean? Completely fucking off her head. They sure are taking their time. Called straight away at 8 and then again at 8:27, and they were a few minutes away. That was 25 minutes ago. They are here. She's being arrested for criminal damage initially, and it turned out she entered the flat, so possibly burglary as well. She was in here for half a minute or so, it turns out. Thank fuck she didn't find me, if that is what she was looking for. Oh my god, that's terrifying. And then the OP posts a quick update saying, she's been charged and released. What the fuck? I broke out in cold sweat when they said that. Barricaded the door and my bedroom door. First time the camera alert goes off, and it is straight onto emergency services. I thought the landlord had moved your stuff out, but it seems not. That must have been people in the other flat moving things around. And then the OP posts an update the next day saying, so I was wrong with this. Referring to his last update, saying she is definitely still here. She must have been very quiet coming in. And as nothing happened overnight, this says to me that it is very much deliberate and she knew what was going on, not that there was any doubt at this stage. I wonder if she thought the camera was fake, since the police refused to show her any footage, so she thought it was just her word against mine. Presumably at the station yesterday, they showed her so she knows she is banged to rights. Someone just turned up and I was being nosy. They told her, the council has canceled your accommodation. You need to vacate by 1 p.m. and contact them for alternative arrangement. She is obviously arguing, I'm not doing anything until I find out what is going on. This ain't right cause of pandemic. We'll listen out to see what happens at 1 p.m. And then the OP provides an update later that day saying, update, she just knocked on my door and said, I'm asking for the key for this unholy eviction. You don't have any right to be here. I called emergency services as instructed by the police yesterday and the fucking operator. Why are you calling emergency services? Cheeky fucking bitch. I don't normally use that language, but fuck me. Even after I explained everything and I had been told to immediately call emergency services if she approaches my door by the arresting officer yesterday. And then the OP recreates or rewrites what the conversation was with emergency services, saying this is a council matter, and the OP says no it isn't. She broke in yesterday and was charged. I was told to call emergency services immediately if she came anywhere near the door. Well, there's no danger. You don't know that. She just walked up and kicked the door in yesterday. Well, she may have broken her bail conditions. Call the station. Now on hold with the station, as she has probably just broken bail conditions. I'm absolutely fuming. There are no bail conditions. She hasn't done anything wrong. Am I supposed to wait until she breaks in again and attacks me? Well, if she does that, call emergency services. Are you kidding me? My door isn't even properly fixed yet. When is that being done? Someone is coming to look at it today. Oh, well, she won't be able to get in then. You did hear that she kicked the door in, right? Well, you'll need to wait until the arresting officer is on duty. When is that? Maybe later today. I don't know what to do. Everyone seems to have washed their hands of it. And oh my God, that's just insane. That's insane how they're like, yep, we can't do anything. Oh, your door's getting fixed later today? Cool. We're not gonna go and arrest the person that broke into your home yesterday. That is, I would be terrified. I'd be fuming like the OP is. I mean, that's insane how emergency services are just like, yeah, we can't really do anything until the arresting officer is on duty. Like, that's just crazy because the OP could be in immediate danger. Who knows what this lady wants to do to him? But let's continue. The OP updates the next day saying, wow, just wow. So the management company just knocked and gave me a new key for the front door of the building. They've changed the lock. They said the council have canceled her tenancy, so aren't paying for her anymore, and have basically washed their hands of her. Edit, that isn't quite true. Obviously, the council can't do that, but they won't rehouse her until she is made homeless. So I've essentially abandoned her here with me until she can be evicted, which will be months. They said, maybe you can phone the police and say she attacked your door again. Then when they come and arrest her, we can remove all her stuff and change the locks. Fucking incredible. Obviously, I refused. They're waiting around, hoping she goes out. Fucking hell. Like, even if they do that, she's just going to be waiting outside to get back in. What the hell is she going to do when she finds out she can't get back into the building? Jesus Christ. I've also sent a long email to my MP, who turns out to be the Shadow Solicitor General, detailing all of this. Even though she won't be able to do anything in the short term, the attitude of the police surely needs to be investigated. And then the OP makes another update the next day saying, of course, was woken up by her continuing to bang at 4 a.m., not even sure there is a point in calling the police. They clearly don't give a fuck. That's insane. How the neighbor came back again, banging on the door and the police won't come. Let's continue. After telling me she isn't doing anything wrong by knocking when I called the station, to yesterday telling me she's only knocking, get a better lock, just calling 101 yesterday and having been told someone would be out and no one ever arrived. I phoned victim support at 4 a.m. and they have advised me to call back at 8 a.m. once the Lewisham office is open, and they will help me raise a formal complaint about the police. Starting hammering hard again at 6:55 with both hands like the video in the post. Phoned 101. The operator was incredulous that nothing has been done after reading back through the record. Sending someone again, apparently, and is contacting the council. Advised me to do so also, which I already planned to do anyways. In all, the conclusion and sleep deprivation, I accidentally deleted the video rather than exporting it. Not that it should matter at this stage, and I still have the 4 a.m. And this is just so insane because like the police are just like acting like she's just knocking when clearly she's just not knocking. She broke in his door. She kicked in his door and the frame broke. And they're like, get a better lock? Are you kidding me? Like, that's England. Like, they should have a decent police force to take care of this. I mean, it's insane how they're just like writing it off. It's like she is as much as a threat as she could be without the OP getting physically attacked. Like, it's insane how they're not helping him out. Get a better lock is crazy. Imagine you calling the police worried about your life and worried about your safety, and the police tell you to get a better lock and they don't send someone out. It's obvious that it's not just knocking, and this lady is clearly unwell, mentally unwell, and could easily hurt the OP or do something even more crazy, because she obviously isn't afraid to bust down the door and enter his apartment. I mean, just, oh my God, this is so insane. But the OP posts an update the next day, and let's get into it. Update, I phoned the Independent Office for Police Conduct at 9 a.m. After 45 minutes on hold, I was finally told just go to our website. Laughing, crying emoji. Social services didn't want to know either, just put me through to the community nurse, which seemed to be a single person, so it was just an answer phone, so I've left a pleading message. The nurse called me back. She doesn't seem to be known to them. They have someone with that name. She wasn't even supposed to tell me that, but she is older than this woman. It seems to be, like, significantly older. Like when I said she was apparently a security guard, the nurse said, no, it can't be her then. I said she certainly seems like she could have been. She is well built and took the door down in one kick. The nurse's response was, Jesus Christ. She was actually quite shocked and genuinely frightened by all the things I described. Said there's no way the police should have released her. But of course, once again, there is nothing she can do until the police or GP refer her. At this point, I phoned the station back and was ranting about everything which has happened since she was released. How I've been treated badly and told pathetic things like, it's just knocking and get another lock. And that the community nurse said there was no way in hell she should have been released. And whilst the operator was typing all of this up, I got an email from the arresting officer saying he would phone me at 2 p.m. 30 seconds later, I got an email from the letting agent saying she had vacated the property. She's gone. I went down to confirm this is true, and it does seem to be the case. Thank Christ for that. I really hope she gets the help that she clearly needs, but God, That is a weight off. And then the OP creates an update a day later, which reads as follows. So of course, the arresting officer who's going to call me just after starting work at 1400 hours never did, for the second time in 3 days. Similarly, after calling 101 in a panic at 7 a.m. as she was pounding on the door, like in the original video in this thread, no one has turned up for the second day running. It is as if they think if they just ignore it, then it'll go away. I mean, I suppose it has, at least for me, but through no action to theirs. As far as they know, she is still here and still a threat to me. All that is going to happen is she is going to presumably start the whole thing over again elsewhere. I dread to think what might happen. Think I will set up a Google News alert for her name. Thanks, everyone, for your advice and support over the last week. It has been really helpful and comforting. Just getting this all written down has helped me realize just how utterly insane this whole situation has been. I think if you don't write these things down, there is a risk you start to think you are over-exaggerating. Similarly, when friends and family react, there's a possibility that they may be overly concerned or siding with you since they know you, but when a bunch of strangers are just as concerned about the whole thing, it shows just how scary it is. This weekend, I shall definitely be sorting out that complaint to the IOPC, and my friend's wife advised me to still write to the local counselors responsible so that they are at least aware of what has been going on and the police's seemingly indifference to it, leaving it a couple of days until I'm a bit more level-headed, calmer, and can frame it better rather than just being an angry, frustrated, and scared rant. Guess this is the final update. If I actually hear back from the police, I may post again, but at this stage, it doesn't feel at all likely given the response so far. If the CPS decide it is not in the public interest to go to court, or once it has been through court, I will do a new thread just to share the videos on Monday, and at the times since that people can see how scary it is. I was rewatching the break-in and the following hour last night, and either she is the world's best actor or the police are utterly insane. It is like two completely different people. And then the OP makes an update the next day, so that was not their final update. The OP says, just got a call from the police, realized of course the officer who I've been speaking to wasn't the arresting officer, it was the officer who took my statement. Obvious, really. Not sure why I wrote down arresting officer with my notes on Monday. Probably a combination of shock and adrenaline. He said she was charged with criminal damage and admitted it. He has checked the file and was surprised there was no condition on her bail to stay off of this floor. He said it was even filed in badly, so he has already complained to the line manager of the PC in charge of the case. I said about her knocking and telling me to hand over my keys because I'm being evicted, and he replied, yeah, she is clearly crazy. I bit my tongue and stopped myself from saying, so why is no one referring her? Presumably because she admitted it. Anyways, long story short, she is in court in the next 10 days, so that's it. I'll do a final post in a few weeks when/if I know the outcome and post the other videos. And then the OP creates an update on Monday, a few days later, and the update reads as follows. So, it would appear it isn't quite over yet. She knocked on my door at 9 a.m. I didn't even notice. It was only because when going to bed at 10:30 p.m., I noticed that the landing light was on in Apple Home. So I looked at the camera, and there she was, knocking at 9 p.m., knocking like a normal person, except for the fact that she had no reason to be there. So I walked down the stairs to make sure the front door was locked, muttering, fucking people, about the people leaving it open, and there she was, standing in the entrance to the building in the pitch black, swaying back and forth and completely out of it, not responding. I quickly went back to my flat, called emergency services, and they were going to dispatch the police and an ambulance, but I asked if she was still there. I checked, and she was gone. I guess me going back up the stairs snapped her out of it because she must have been there for 90 minutes. Really weird. I sent the letting agent of the other flat an email asking them to remind them to lock the door. I have tried asking them and they never answer their door. As said in another comment, my understanding is that the tenant is ill, so isn't there, and has family coming in and out checking on the place? Shrugging emoji. And then the OP creates an update the next day saying, so yet another update. I said I would make a new post after it went to court, but I wasn't expecting it to be within a day of my last post. Well, actually, it would have been before it. I received a call from the police today. She was in court yesterday and pleaded guilty. Sentencing is delayed until 10th of June because, surprise, surprise, she has another ongoing case. So here are the videos for last week's show of just how utterly insane it is. And unfortunately, almost all of the links are removed. Actually, all of the links are removed. So I'm sorry, we can't look at the links, but he says Monday, breaking in, link removed, saying she didn't do it, returning, trying to get in. Tuesday, asking me to hand over my keys. Wednesday, somebody's broke. No idea. Asking for the door key, maybe, not sure. This was after the management company changed the lock on the front door. Where are you? Freezing on the spot outside my door at 7 p.m. Then on the stairs 20 minutes later. Harry, is it you still there? That is not the first time she mentioned Harry. But sure, let's treat her like she is completely rational. I left a note for the neighbor downstairs about the door. They came up and apologized this evening. Said they didn't realize there was anyone else still living in the building. They thought everyone was moving out and he was the only person left. And he is gone soon. So he had just been lazy and not been locking the door, but will do so now. Also, I got a reply from my MP or her office. They have written to the police highlighting the concern for her mental health and also to the local council over the fact that she does not seem to be receiving help. And then the OP creates another update a week after saying, believe it or not, another update. I received a message from the neighborhood police officer who originally visited my neighborhood weeks ago. He was going to advise me to take out an injunction, but in the conversation, it became clear he thought she still lived in the building. He obviously couldn't say what, but said something happened on the 23rd, the day after I found her and basically in the trance in the entrance of the building, days after she had moved out. The police were called and they took her to the A&E as she told them she wanted help. Obviously, I don't know what happened, but I am glad to hear that she has asked for help. Hopefully she didn't do anything to herself or anyone else and she gets it now. It's sad how difficult it has been to get someone who is obviously experiencing a severe mental health crisis help. I knew acknowledgement of mental health problems was bad in the UK, but I didn't realize just how bad. And then the OP posts an update the next day and says, of course you jinxed it, replying to a comment. She turned up today, rang my doorbell, I went down to the front door, and there she was. I nearly didn't open the door, but the letting agent of her old flat was there, cleaning, and she said she had to come collect the last of her stuff, so I let her deal with it. But like, no acknowledgement of what she did, or an apology, or anything. And that is the last update we have ever received from the OP.